All right, the Spurs take on the Pelicans. And that's going to be a 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Saturday, March 26, 2022. New Orleans is -6 with a total at 232.5. And we're coming off another 4-1 day of personal bets on BrockPage.com. We also improved to 3-0 in our last 3 college basketball tier package bets on that very same website. And if you want to access today's college basketball tier package bet, the link for that play is in the description section below. $1,000 bettors are up over $2,700 during that span. Now you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on my YouTube channel and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on BrockPage.com is I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. Now, we currently have over 975 members who are signed up and active on that website right now. And just remember, guys, if you sign up for a package here today on BrockPage.com, you're actually going to get full access to that membership every single day, all the way through the end of March. Now, the Pelicans have a losing record at the Smoothie King Center here this season. And in addition to that, they've also done a poor job of stopping the three-pointer there. New Orleans is currently in the bottom 10 in defensive three-point percentage at home. And they also have a tough time guarding the field goal in front of their home crowd as well. Now, offensively, on the other end of the court, New Orleans also finds themselves in the bottom 5 in shooting the three ball as well. So certainly some problem areas for New Orleans backers here. Now they're taking on a San Antonio team who won 3 out of their last 4 themselves. They also averaged 122 points a game in those victories. When it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two squads, San Antonio covered in 8 out of their last 10 contests against New Orleans. Now scoring-wise, DeJounte Murray is averaging 20 points a game, along with 8 boards and 9 assists. Meanwhile, Keldon Johnson is scoring over 16 points a game himself, along with 6 rebounds and 41% shooting from beyond the arc. When it comes to offensive production in this one, the Spurs are currently in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive points per contest. Now, injury-wise, Walker, Langford, and K-Sock are out for San Antonio. Vassell is also listed as questionable. Meanwhile, for New Orleans on the other side of things, Brandon Ingram is questionable for them with a hammy. When it comes to the total, the Pels went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. Those were overs against the likes of Chicago, Phoenix, and Houston. Meanwhile, San Antonio saw overs recently against the likes of OKC, Minnesota, and Charlotte. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio +6 in the over 232.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Kings versus the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Orlando's -2 with the total at 221.5. And even though Orlando's been pretty bad at home this season, they are going up against a Sacramento team who's going to have very little firepower on the floor here tonight. Sabonis and Fox are sitting this one out here this evening. And that's certainly bad news because the Kings have already lost 7 out of their last 9 ball games. And when it comes to playing on the road in this one, Sacramento's gotten the W in just 10 out of 35 ball games away from the Golden One Center. Now they're taking on an Orlando team on the other side who actually got the W in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. And they allowed only 87 points a game on average in those 2 victories. And as bad as Orlando's been offensively this year, they do still rank in the top 10 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. Cole Anthony's averaging 17 points a game, along with 5 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Franz Wagner scoring 15 points a game himself, along with 4 boards and a couple assists as well. Now, when it comes to the injury report in this one, Suggs is currently out for Orlando. Meanwhile, for Sacramento on the other side of things, once again, their big scorers are on the bench tonight as Sabonis and Fox are both out. Now, total-wise, Sacramento saw unders recently with the likes of Indiana, Chicago, and Denver. Meanwhile, Orlando on the other side of things, they went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Orlando -2 and the under 221.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Pacers versus the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's minus 11 with a total at 224.5. And even though this is a fairly large number here, the Raptors did cover the point spread in 7 out of their last 9 ball games. And they're also allowing only 106 points a game in the Scotiabank Arena. Now, offensively, Pascal Siakam scoring 22 points a game along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet, he's drilling nearly 40% of his three-pointers, and he's also averaging 20 points a game. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Raptors are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive boards per contest. They're taking on an Indiana team who lost 7 out of their last 10, and they've yet to reach double-digit road wins this year. Indiana's gone just 9-28 straight up away from home, and that's good for only 24% during that span. Now, the Pacers' biggest issue here this year has been their defensive play. These guys are actually in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage, and they're allowing nearly 114 points per contest. Now, injury-wise, Brogdon, Batazzi, Smith, and Washington are questionable. Duarte and Jackson, they are out. Meanwhile, for Toronto on the other side of things, Gary Trent Jr. is questionable. Flynn is out as well. When it comes to the number, Toronto went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, Indiana saw their last 4 straight fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Toronto minus 11 and the under 224.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Bulls versus the Cavs, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Cleveland's minus 1 with the total at 222.5. Now, the Cavs have played their best basketball in the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this season. They're 23-13 straight up at home, and they covered the number in over 61% of those contests I just mentioned. And speaking of home games, it's been very difficult for teams to score in Cleveland this year. The Cavs are holding their opponents to just 102 points a game in their own building. They're actually in the top 10 in defensive rebounding. Evan Mobley's grabbing nearly 9 rebounds a game. He's also averaging 15 points per contest. And speaking of scoring points, Darius Garland's leading the club in scoring with over 21 points a night. And when it comes to offensive production in this one, the Cavs are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in shooting the basketball from the field. Now, they're taking on a Chicago team who lost 5 out of their last 6. They covered the number only 2 times since February 24th. And speaking of covering the point spread, the Bulls have gotten the job done against the point spread in just 37% of their road games this year. Now, Chicago's biggest issue is their defensive play. These guys are in the bottom 10 in guarding the 3-ball away from home. They're also allowing nearly 114 points a game in that very same category. When it comes to the injury report in this one, DeRozan and Caruso are questionable. Ball is still out. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, on the other side of things, Rondo and Wade are out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Cleveland's held Chicago to just 107 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings. Now, Cleveland's also 23-13 to the under in their own arena. Meanwhile, Chicago went 80% to the under in their last 10 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland minus 1 and the under 222.5. Next contest should be a good one. I'm talking about the Bucks versus the Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Memphis is minus 1.5 with the total at 233. Now, Memphis won their last 3 straight, and they actually lost only 3 ball games since February 24th. Memphis is currently leading the entire NBA in home scoring. They're also first in the NBA in offensive rebounding as well. Big Steven Adams is averaging double-digit rebounds a game, along with 3 assists. Meanwhile, Desmond Bane is drilling nearly 43% of his 3 balls, and he's also scoring 18 points a night. When it comes to defensive play in this one, the Grizzlies are also in the top 10 in defensive rebounding per contest. Now, they're taking on a Milwaukee team who may have to go to work here tonight without Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. Both are listed as questionable for this evening's ball game. Now, the Bucks have also had a tough time on the defensive end of the court while traveling. The Bucks are actually in the bottom 10 in the NBA in points allowed per contest on the road. Now, injury-wise, Holiday and Bembry are out for Milwaukee. And once again, Giannis and Chris Middleton, they are questionable. Meanwhile, for Memphis on the other side, Morant, Tilly, and Clark, they're all listed as out for them. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, Memphis went 6-2 to the over in their last 8 ball games. They're also 70% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the Bucks on the other side, they saw overs recently with the likes of Minnesota, Sacramento, and Oklahoma City. I'm going to lean toward Memphis minus 1.5 in the over 233. Next contest, it is going to be Nets versus the Heat, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Brooklyn's minus 3 with the total at 230. Now, the Nets got the W in 6 out of their last 8 ball games, and they are the clear-cut best road shooting team in the game right now. The Nets lead the NBA in both offensive field goal percentage and shooting the 3 ball away from their home court. Now, Kevin Durant scoring over 29.5 points per contest, along with 7 boards, 6 assists. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving's drilling 44% of his 3 balls. He's also averaging 28.5 points a game. When it comes to defensive play in this one, Brooklyn's also in the top 10 in guarding the field goal on the road. Now, they're taking on a Miami team who lost their last 3 straight, and they failed to cover in their last 6. Now, in addition to having a losing record against the point spread at home, the Heat's also struggled grabbing offensive rebounds in the FTX arena. Miami currently finds themselves in the bottom 10 in home offensive boards. Now, injury-wise, Oladipo, Hero, and Vincent are questionable for Miami. Those guys actually account for about 35 points a game between the 3 of them. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn, on the other side of things, everyone's healthy for the exception of Simmons and Aldridge. Those guys are still out. Nothing changing with their statuses. Now, total-wise, Brooklyn went 4-1 to the over in their last 5 outings. 61% to the over in all of their contests on the road this year. Meanwhile, Miami saw their last 4 straight get over the line themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Brooklyn minus 3 in the over 230. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Thunder versus the Nuggets, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver is minus 15, totals 230. And even though Denver's the clear-cut favorite to win this one outright, it's actually OKC who's been able to cover a bunch of point spreads even when injured. OKC's currently 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 straight. And they're also covering in over 69% of their road games. And speaking of road contests, OKC's done a pretty good job defensively in that category. These guys are currently in the top 5 in road defensive field goal percentage. And they're also in the top 10 in guarding the 3 ball away from home. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Darius Bazley's averaging double-digit points per contest, along with 6 rebounds. Meanwhile, Trey Mann is scoring double-digit points a game himself, along with a couple of boards as well. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, OKC's actually in the top 5 in the league in offensive boards per contest away from home. Now, injury-wise, Favors, Williams, and Giddey are out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is questionable. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side of things, Najee is out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Denver saw unders recently with the likes of Philadelphia, Golden State, and Sacramento. Meanwhile, OKC's 20-16 to the under as the official road team. I'm going to lean toward OKC plus 15. And the under 230. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Rockets versus the Blazers, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Houston's minus 4 with the total at 231.5. And as depleted as Portland is, we're looking at a Houston team who lost 6 out of their last 8. And they've yet to reach double-digit road wins. Houston's just 8-30 straight up away from home this season. And that's good for a win percentage of just 211 during that stretch. Now, Houston also allows more points per contest on the road than any other team in the NBA. They also find themselves dead last in the association in defensive field goal percentage away from home. Now, they're taking on a Portland team who actually covered the point spread recently against the likes of Detroit, Brooklyn, and Atlanta. Now, the Blazers also do the majority of their scoring in the third quarter. These guys are currently in the top 10 in third quarter scoring at home. Brandon Williams is scoring 13 points a game along with 3 rebounds, couple assists. Meanwhile, Drew Eubanks is scoring over a dozen points a game himself with Portland this year, along with 8 rebounds. Now, when it comes to the injury report in this one, Bledsoe, Winslow, and Hart are questionable for Portland. Meanwhile, for Houston, Garuba is still out for them. Now, total-wise, Houston saw overs recently with the likes of Phoenix, New Orleans, and the Lakers. Meanwhile, Portland, on the other side, they saw overs recently with the likes of Detroit, Brooklyn, and New York. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Portland +4 and the over 231.5. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, you are going to get access to that content every single day all the way through the end of March. Although I do tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, if you want to get access to every single bet that I give out on that website, you're going to want to think about signing up for my board member tier package. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.